My next guest is considered one of the 31 Democrats that everyone is keeping an eye on today. She is our headliner from Michigan, Elissa Slotkin, a Democrat on the House Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees. And thank you for your service, first of all.
Thanks for being here.
And thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Why are you still, at least publicly, up in the air about how you're going to vote?
Well, I mean, this is going to be one of the most serious things I probably ever vote on. So I'm going to take it seriously. And I'm going to do what I was trained to do as a CIA officer, which is not to listen to the news and, you know, people yelling and screaming, my colleagues kind of going back and forth. What I'm going to do is take the weekend. I'm going to put the full body of information together, and I'm going to make an objective decision based on the information. I'm not going to be pushed and prodded one way or another, and I'm not going to be jammed, you know, to make a decision when I haven't had time to really think.
Okay, but there has been some time over this so far, and these hearings have gone on for a couple months now.
Yep.
But just so our viewers know, your district, Michigan number 8, it covers Lansing, runs down to Detroit to the south and east.
Rochester Hills, the suburbs of Detroit.
You won the district by 3 percentage points. Donald Trump won it by 7. How are the people back home thinking about this?
Well, they're definitely engaged. I mean, we have had the phones ringing off the hook. We actually had to install a third phone line yesterday in the office because we couldn't keep up with the pace. Yeah. And that's in Michigan and in D.C. We have young people constantly on the phones, and people have the full range of opinions. We have people who are very much against it, people who are very much for it, people who kind of want to add their views to the conversation. We took my staff got together a full list of like the top 10 or 15 things that people have been concerned about, and those are the kinds of things I want to make sure to address. I have a really big town hall, or community meeting, I should say, on Monday in my district, and we're going to talk about it.
If you vote yes with your other Democratic colleagues, is your House seat lost in 2020?
You know, there's been a lot of talk about this, and as soon as I came out in support of an inquiry, there were people saying, you know, that's the end of your political career. And I just have to say, I mean, maybe it's because I'm a former CIA officer. I did 3 tours in Iraq. Sometimes you have to make calls that aren't based on a poll or on some political consultant. And if this is the end of my political career, at least I'm doing what I think is right, and I'm basing my decisions on integrity. That is the most I can do.
I'm trying to read your mind, and that last answer sounds like a no. Is that where you are?
No, I literally have not made up my mind, because for me, we've had like 400-page reports come out. We've had a ton of stuff come forward. I also wanted to frankly look back on the history. What did the documents look like for Nixon, for Clinton? What did it look like in the past when we've done this, so that I can put it into context? That is what I was trained to do as an intelligence officer. I'm just going to do that.
How much do you remember from 1998 and Bill Clinton?
I mean, not much. Of course, it went on for a very, very long time, and so it was kind of dribs and drabs in the media. You know, I think politics played a big role in that impeachment. I think it's plays a role in probably everything.
Even then, Republicans had Democrats vote with them, and so far, Democrats have 0 Republicans supporting them.
Yeah.
How much does that concern you?
Well, I don't like it. I mean, honestly, I come from a district that's, frankly, leans Republican. So bipartisanship is something that I really believe in. And especially, again, as someone who's served, you really, like, grow up not thinking in a partisan fashion, and that's better. But again, like, I can't make a decision just based on the political side of this. I really have to go with my gut.
So you, as a party, Nancy Pelosi, can afford to lose 17 votes.
Yeah.
Do you think you're close to that?
I really don't know. I know there's a few folks who have come out and said they're not voting for it. A few Democrats said that they're not voting for it.
It appears at least 2.
2, right? Yeah. I think that there's a lot of texting and sort of conversations going on among members, particularly.
Are you having those?
Folks are
directly with members, are you having those conversations?
Yes.
And what are those like?
Well, I mean, I was on the House floor the other day, and a Republican colleague who I work with all the time came up to me and wanted to talk through his logic and wanted to hear my logic. I mean, you know, I think there are a number of us who think this is probably the most serious vote we'll ever take, at least in this term. Short of the declaration of war, this is kind of the biggest thing we'll be voting on. So there is a group of us who are really trying to be thoughtful. I know it doesn't seem that way from what the media kind of covers, the loudest people in the room. But for me, this is deadly serious.
Jerry Nadler is going to be up in a moment. We'll bring him up when we get to him. The president is going to receive the president of Paraguay next hour. We're going to see him around 11:30 as well. Just back to our conversation we had at the time. The arguments haven't changed. I mean, we sat here for 15 hours yesterday and watched these hearings. Republicans made their point at 9 a.m. and Democrats made theirs at 9:30, and they were still arguing about the same thing at midnight.
Yeah.
And you wonder what that does to the American people from the outside looking in. Specific question.
Yeah.
You've read the transcript, right? You're a CIA analyst, right? I mean, this was your career prior to coming to Congress. Many would say that the punishment does not fit the accusation of impeachment if you read that transcript. What do you think about that?
Well, for me, the transcript was part of the reason I came out with 6 of my colleagues, all with national security background. We wrote an op-ed saying that we thought it warranted an inquiry, right? We wanted further investigation. And frankly, I worked in the Bush White House and I worked in the Obama White House. I know what it's like to work on the NSC staff, the National Security Council, and be in those phone calls. For me, it's actually a very normal order of business to have the president or senior people from the United States asking foreign governments to do things, to say, hey, we really need you to do X, Y, and Z. The problem I had is that what I read from that transcript was at least the inclination that the president wasn't looking just to have a trade for the benefit of the national security of the United States, but for himself, for personal and political gain.
Would you concede, though, that conversation in part also dealt with what the U.S. went through in the election of 2016? And he was trying to draft support to try and figure out what happened, whether it was Ukraine or Russia or wherever the accusation.
Well, I can't speak to his intent. It's clear, I think we know from lots of folks that he was interested in a few things out of that call. To be honest with you, I know this idea that the Ukrainians were the ones who meddled in our election as a conspiracy theory that has been propagated by Russia. And I know that deeply because the intelligence community has briefed us.
If you can give me a minute, let me just get to Chairman Nadler here, okay? Back on the Hill.
Century and a half. The House Judiciary Committee has voted articles of impeachment against the President for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. The House will act expeditiously. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, are you disappointed that no obstruction of justice? So why would you take...
Back with the Congresswoman here in New York. Republicans allege the hearings have not been fair. Think they've got a case?
Listen, there were Republicans in every single hearing, both the ones that were done first, that were classified, and then the ones that came public. They had just as much time to ask questions. They had their attorneys. They had just as much of a right to engage in that process as anybody else. I do think that there's a focus on the process rather than the substance, and I'm a substance person. So I think that you know, there's been sort of a migrating set of talking points that they've had about the process. For me, that's why I want to sit with the substance, because that's what matters.
You can also tell time, and it's December 13th on the calendar, Friday, December 13th. You have about a week and a half now before the Christmas break.
Yeah.
When do you make a call? When do you decide?
So for me, I will make the call before close of business on Monday. For me, that you know, I understand we could have a vote. I really don't know, but as soon as Tuesday or Wednesday. So obviously, I have to make my decision. And for me, I don't have anything planned, particularly on Sunday. I'm just going to sit and reflect.
And with whom will you speak?
So my husband, of course, will be with me. I have my team, but also, I mean, we've been hearing constantly from constituents. So that list I told you about of the top 10 or 15 things that people have been raising, I want to be able to know that I can address every single one of those things.
Elissa Slotkin, a Democrat from Michigan, first termer, won in a Trump district. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Of course.
All right.